Cross-linguistic influences. What are cross-linguistic influences? These are the transfers from your first language to your second language. So, whatever the rules of your first language are, the learners at times try to transfer the rules to the second language. So, they apply them at times subconsciously, and at other times they apply them consciously. In any case, this is called language transfer or cross-linguistic influence. Now, if you want an example of it, it is obvious from the foreign accent that you noticed in Asian speakers of English. So you might have seen that the way the English language speakers speak is very different from how the Asians speak in English, from both in accent and the use of vocabulary and the structure of sentences also, because they are trying to transfer whatever rules of the first language they have subconsciously used to their second language. So another example, in the context of Pakistan, for instance, or even India or Bangladesh, is in the pronunciation of W. So W or wa is different from wow in Urdu. But you might have often heard people saying what rather than what. So when you say W, you need to round your lips and actually position them in the as if you are about to whistle. It's not whistle, it's whistle. So what is a very common way of saying what by Pakistani learners, and you might have noticed it in your own students. So this is exactly what we mean over here by cross-linguistic transfer. Now the question is, how important is the transfer? So how much will it affect your second language learning, and what exactly is being transferred? The question of both of these questions will vary from one learner to the other and from one language to the other language. So there is a whole range of research on cross-linguistic transfer. How does it come by? Whether it can be avoided, or how do you go about it in your classrooms? There is a whole range of research. Now, this reminds us also of our behaviorist approach to language learning. In behaviorist approach to language learning, the focus is on simply insulating the two languages. So if the first language is seen as something, as a habit formation, and the second language learning is seen as the learning of a new habit, they try to insulate those. So you might have heard people, especially in English medium schools or in convents and in elite schools, that teachers constantly ask the students to speak only in English, not to use Urdu or any other language, and also to think in English. So this is the concept behind it is this behaviorist approach, in which you would say that let's insulate or let's suppress one language so that the other language or a new habit can be learned instead. Recent researchers say no matter what you do, there will be some sort of transfer always there. This is because all new knowledge that you learn is always based on the old knowledge. So we always in our mind have a certain kind of schema, and whatever the knowledge or new information comes to us, we try to process it with the rules that we have learned before. So we cannot possibly insulate or shut down one part of learning to do the other part of learning. So they say it will be there, but what will be the extent of it? How can it be? How can we deal with it? They differ in that. So you must remember this concept of universal grammar that Chomsky said, that this concept that in all the human beings, no matter what their language, have some sort of basic structure in their minds, or basic structure which is universal to all languages. He argues that if you have a direct access to this universal grammar, the errors will be less in your second language learning. But if you have an indirect access to this grammatical structure in your mind, then you will be trying to constantly apply the whole patterns of language of the of your first language to your second language. Then the scope of the errors will be much more. So it is said that learners who have different languages will access second language at different rates and will use different routes, because it will depend how their first language is similar or different to the new language.